Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be doing a what if Asta found Excalibur in the woods. So we're going to skip over, of course, Asta's childhood. It pretty much goes the same way. My phone's acting. No, go back to the picture. So we're going to skip over Asta's childhood and all that stuff because that's not really that important to the what if. So pretty much, Asta is about the age of, we'll say, 10. And Asta is doing his normal training, being super excited. And he's out in the woods. He's, doing his ha, ya, and all that jazz. And he sees the sword in the stone. As he starts walking towards the sword, he can notice some strange writing on the side of it. He can't really read it. So Asta tries pulling on the sword, but he can't for some reason. He pulls and pulls, and he's just having a hard time. So he says to himself, I wonder why I can't pull the sword out of the stone. So he goes back to the village, and asks the old wizard. He needs to show him something. So he goes and shows the old wizard, the wizard who does the grimoire ceremony, and he shows him this sword. He asks the wizard who owns all the books, is there any way to translate what's on the side of the rock and what's written on the rock and what's on the sword? So the wizard says this sword, so the wizard looks at Asta and goes, this sword is very odd and very strange. I think I have a book that translates that. So the wizard goes back to the grimoire tower and goes into his study room with Asta following him behind. So the wizard finds a book with the weird writing on it. They go back to the rock and the stone, and he begins to read the book. The wizard looks at Asta and tells Asta that this sword is called Excalibur. Only someone who is worthy enough of Excalibur can pull the sword out. As Asta is wondering, how am I not worthy? I train, I do everything. Yes, but the sword will tell you when it's ready. But the wizard said also that this could just be a cruel trick. This isn't actually Excalibur. I don't think it is. And Asta goes, have you actually seen the real Excalibur? And the wizard goes, no, but I have to go back and get ready for this year's grimoire ceremony. So I'll see you later, kid. So as Asta goes through his training over the years, he stays training and everything else. Asta goes back and tells Yuno about the sword, and Yuno says, man, that cannot be the real Excalibur. That's a bunch of malarkey. Yuno doesn't believe him, but Asta does his normal training thing. Of course, several years go by. Asta, being Asta, is still training and doing his normal routine. The years go by. As Asta is training out in the woods, he tries one more time. And we're going to do a time skip. Sorry for being all over the place. First time. So, Asta is doing his normal training. He tries one more time to pull the sword out of the stone, and it still hasn't moved. So Asta finally giving up and going to the grimoire ceremony. I gotta get a grimoire. It's the only way. So as Asta meets up with Yuno. Yuno asks him, could he get the rock out of the stone? As Yuno, with a smirk on his face, starts to giggle a little, and Asta says no, and he's really down. Yuno stops snickering. Asta and Yuno both walk to the grimoire ceremony. As everyone enters in, the grimoire wizard announces the ceremony. You have all become the age of 16. You are all now ready for your grimoires. As the wizard begins to do the ceremony, all books start floating around. Some people getting really thick grimoires, other ones just getting slim, tiny grimoires with only one page. Of course, everyone notices a bright greenish yellowish light and sees Yuno standing next to a 4-leaf grimoire. Everyone is amazed that that he has a 4-leaf grimoire. They can't believe it. They all go over to Yuno and start trying to basically become his friends, except for the 2 jerks that go, really? You know the 2. And then as the ceremony starts, everyone slowly walks out of the grimoire tower. Yuno kinda lags behind and goes to talk to the wizard. Asta just standing there. No grimoire, nothing. But lurking in the darkness is the grimoire thief. He can't attack him yet, so he has to wait for Yuno to come out. As Asta is so sad, as Asta walks away from Yuno while Yuno is talking to the mage of the tower. Asta begins to walk out of the grimoire tower, finally being down and sad. But he says to himself, man, maybe I can try pulling the sword one more time. Maybe I can do it this time. Asta walks up to the sword in the stone. He looks at it, and he doesn't say anything. He just walks up to it and somehow pulls the sword out of the stone. And suddenly, the stone that was engulfing the sword just disappears. Asta then goes running back to Yuno. As Asta excitedly running with the sword, Yuno is then suddenly attacked by the chain mage. The chain mage has Yuno bound up while holding his grimoire, saying, haha, I finally got you. Now I'll be able to sell this grimoire for lots of money. Asta looks at the chain mage and tells him to put it down. The chain mage is awestruck while he sees Asta wielding a sword. He laughs at him, he giggles, and goes, you and that piece of metal are not gonna stop me. As soon as the chain mage begins to swipe at him, Asta blocks one of the chains, cutting it in half. Asta's amazed that this sword was able to cut through the chain. Asta then runs as fast as he can and hits the chain mage in the stomach with the pommel of the sword. Asta begins to help Yuno back up, hands him his grimoire, and they do their usual fist bump. Well, this is the first episode of the What If. I know it was kind of quick and short, and I'll probably get better in the next episode. Thanks for watching. See you later.